A single bone the size of a fingernail rewrote the story of who we are. No skull, no skeleton, just this. So who were they, Lythete? This entire branch of humanity we can't even picture? Everything we know about them began in one small, dark opening in these mountains. We've never found a skull complete enough to know exactly what their face looked like. This is where their story starts. And it starts with a mystery no one expected.
The cave holds traces of human presence stretching back nearly 280,000 years, and out, an extraordinary record of time.
The fragment was sent to a genetics lab in Leipzig, Germany for it, where its DNA was about to reveal something extraordinary.
Today, millions of people alive right now carry pieces of that ancient genome cospis inside their own DNA. But water was only half the evidence. The other half was painted literally, onto the rocks themselves.
In 2008, researchers excavating this cave uncovered a tiny fragment of bone. At first, it seemed unremarkable.
Their bodies were sculpted by Ice Age extremes. A wider nose to warm, freezing air, a stocky frame built to conserve every bit of heat. They crafted sophisticated stone tools using a technique archaeologists call the Mousterian industry. Precise, deliberate, and remarkably effective. They controlled fire, sheltered in caves and rock overhangs, and survived ice ages that would kill an unprepared modern human within hours. They buried their dead deliberately. Sites like La Chapelle aux Saints in France show bodies placed in shallow graves, arranged with apparent care. For over 300,000 years, they thrived across a territory stretching from modern-day Britain to Siberia. They cooperated within their small bands, hunting together, sharing food, caring for the injured and the old.
But here is the detail that mattered more than strength or brain size. They lived in small, scattered bands, rarely meeting other groups at all.
Early Homo sapiens groups, by contrast, regularly gathered in larger numbers, Trevitt, exchanging tools, stories, and crucially, mates. This single difference in social structure would prove to be the quiet, decisive factor in a battle neither species even realized they were fighting.
Proof of this isolation wasn't found through guesswork killers. It was found buried in the ground, at a site in southern France called Grotte Mandrin.
In 2024, researchers here uncovered something that would finally explain the silence of the fossil record. The remains belonged to a Neanderthal individual researchers nicknamed Thorin, and his bones held a genetic secret. Genome sequencing revealed Thorin's lineage had been completely isolated from other Neanderthal populations for 50,000 years. 50,000 years without contact pari, for a species already living in bands as small as 12 to 28 individuals. This wasn't an isolated case. It was, researchers now believe, the norm test, and it may have been quietly there.
In 2009, researchers Coolidge and Wen calculated something startling about how Neanderthals actually lived.
Their groups likely numbered between 12 and 28 individuals at most, barely enough people to maintain a stable, healthy population.
Small, isolated populations like this are especially vulnerable here. Every generation, genetic diversity quietly narrows.
Compare that to early Homo sapiens groups, often numbering 15 to 25 tits, nearly double, with far more frequent contact between separate bands.
Some Neanderthal remains even show physical signs consistent with inbreeding primitive, a silent symptom of a population running out of options.
Small numbers alone don't doom a species, but small numbers, combined with silence between groups, just might.
In Siberia, archaeologists found something the Homo sapiens groups were doing that Neanderthals, as far as we know, never did.
They built what researchers call mating networks, TES, deliberate long-distance connections between distant groups to avoid inbreeding.
Some of these networks stretched across hundreds of miles, an invisible web connecting people who might never even meet face to face.
A 2022 economic model published in the journal found this network advantage alone could explain why one species outcompeted the other.
When resources ran short in one region, these networks meant help, or new mates, or new knowledge could travel in. For an isolated Neanderthal band facing the same hard winter, there was no network to call on, only themselves. Mathematical models now suggest this network gap alone could account for the entire population decline over just a few thousand years. One population slowly contracted, generation after generation. The other kept expanding, connecting, adapting. Strength had kept them alive for 300,000 years. But isolation, quietly, was doing what no predator ever could. So here is the real mystery. Did Neanderthals lose a war? Or did they simply fade, quietly, into the very species that replaced them? We know the two species interbred. Every non-African human alive today carries the proof in their own genome. 2025 mathematical model, published in Scientific Reports, shows something remarkable. No violence is even required.
Through repeated small-scale interbreeding alone, complete genetic replacement could happen in just 10 to 30,000 years.
There's no evidence of large-scale warfare in the fossil record. No mass graves. No signs of conquest.
Instead, it looks like something far quieter, Tefel, and in some ways, far stranger. Absorption, not annihilation.
The last Neanderthals may not have died out in isolation at all. They may have simply been absorbed into the growing human population around them. Their genes didn't disappear. They simply became too diluted, spread across too large a population, to look like a distinct species anymore. In a very real sense, Neanderthals never fully went extinct. They simply stopped being separate. But that raises an even deeper question. If it wasn't strength, and it wasn't war past, what mechanism actually made the difference?
The mechanism, researchers believe, wasn't one single event. It was a slow, compounding chain reaction.
Stage 1 Tooth. Small, scattered bands with little contact between them, exactly as Coolidge and Wynne calculated. Stage 2 Tooth, reduced genetic diversity, generation after generation, as the same limited gene pool cycled through the group.
Stage 3 Toe, what biologists call the Allais effect. Once a population drops too low, simply finding a mate becomes its own crisis. Imagine searching for a partner across hundreds of miles of empty tundra, with no network, no messengers, no wider community to call on.
Now imagine the opposite. Dozens of potential partners gathering seasonally, drawn together by a network built for exactly this purpose.
Isolation, reduced diversity, a mating crisis, population collapse, each stage quietly feeding the next. Meanwhile, Homo sapiens networks acted like a buffer, absorbing shocks that would have devastated a smaller, isolated group. No single cause killed the Neanderthals. It was the absence of connection that made every other hardship fatal. This isn't just ancient history. Part of that story is still alive today, entombed inside every one of us. Today, every non-African person carries roughly 1 to 2% Neanderthal DNA in their genome. Some of those inherited genes still shape our immune systems and even the texture of our skin today. Some inherited Neanderthal genes even help modern immune systems respond to certain pathogens more effectively.
Every time you walk past someone on the street, there's a real chance you're both carrying fragments of the same ancient species.
In a strange way, the species that vanished never truly left us. It just became part of what human means. The same instinct that saved early Homo sapiens, the drive to connect, to build networks beyond our own small circle. Isolation was the quiet threat 40,000 years ago. In many ways, it still is. Modern genetic research continues to reveal just how deeply interconnected our history with the Neanderthals really was. Perhaps the real story here isn't about who was stronger. It's about who learned to never stand alone. Which brings us to the question this story has been leading toward all along. Attack. What does survival actually mean? Survival, it turns out, was never really about who could lift the heaviest stone or run down the fastest prey.
It was about who reached out, who built bridges to strangers, who refused to face the world completely alone.
The Neanderthals were not a failed experiment. They were a species that thrived for 350,000 years, covet longer than we have so far.
Their story is a quiet warning and a quiet gift. A reminder that even the strongest among us cannot survive entirely alone.
40,000 years later, the lesson remains the same. Connection isn't a weakness. It may be the single greatest survival tool we've ever had.
So the next time you feel the pull to reach out, to build a bond, to reject isolation, know that instinct is ancient.
It carried one species through 350,000 years. It carried another all the way to where we stand today.
Two species, one planet, and in the end, only one truth that mattered more than strength ever did.
40,000 years later, the lesson remains the same. Connection isn't a weakness. It may be the single greatest survival tool we've ever had.
So the next time you feel the pull to reach out, to build a bond, to reject isolation, know that instinct is ancient.
It carried one species through 350,000 years. It carried another all the way to where we stand today.
Two species, one planet, and in the end, only one truth that mattered more than strength ever did.
We were never meant to survive alone. And perhaps we never really have.
Thank you for exploring this journey with Channel Name. If you found this fascinating, like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss what comes next.